Okay. Hello, everyone. W- Welcome. Welcome to the live stream. Hope you're doing well. I see couple of people in the chat. Let me just write it. Okay. Good. So let's wait for a couple more minutes for people to join in, and then we can slowly start. Um, yeah, with our session for today. We'll have like some interesting questions that I already gathered from different groups of my students or my clients. So yeah, basically we'll just have a nice chat about AI today. Okay, good. So let's see which questions I have for today. Cool. Second. Just to make sure that everything works and that you can hear me. So yeah, before we start with all the answers today. Okay, testing audio again. Okay, good. Can you hear me? Okay, we can slowly start. So, the idea of these live streams is basically to gather around weekly on Wednesday, around this time, right? To basically ask questions regarding AI, right? It can be a combination between business AI, um, and yeah, general discussion on if you might have some questions, right? Okay, cool. And generally, these live streams will be around 1 hour long, maybe longer if we have more questions. And I have a couple of chats open here. Some of my already established groups are here live with us. Of course, chat on live on YouTube, and of course, people who can't join us live would ask me questions so I can answer them here live. So that's kind of a the um, the overall structure of these lives. Hi, we have a couple people joining in. Um, yeah. So of course, people who are just joining in will have the advantage of getting their questions answered immediately because they are live, and yeah, that's kind of the whole idea. Okay, so let's see. We have one couple of different questions already coming in. Hope you guys are ready to kick this off. So yeah, let's see the first question. This is from one of my clients, and they are actually employees, and they say basically we are concerned about ethics and bias in AI. How do we make sure that any AI we deploy won't say discriminate against a group of customers or make some unfair decisions? Are there any like a best practices to implement AI responsibly? That's a good question. So let's break it down and just see where the AI might produce some unfairness in its responses. It comes down to data. And I know most of you already know that, but this is actually everything that where the bias comes in and how the AI learns about it. So everything starts and ends with data when we speak about bias in general. If your data is biased, your AI will be too. So no matter how shiny the model looks or how well established the model you choose to apply to your criterion, you will have bias in your data. Now, if you are using closed source models like OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, or any like other that you don't really have a full control of all the information, don't just plug their APIs into your workflows and just call it done. This is lazy and really unsafe. You need to make sure that you need to build safety nets around these models. For example, just remember, I don't know if you have or know this insight about, for example, Air Canada. What happened to Air Canada just when the whole craze of AI started is when they wanted to implement um, like a customer support bot. It was meant to solve a specific use case where it would answer questions in a specific way. They had a lot of repetitive information or questions coming to their system, and they wanted to automate that, which is completely fine, and I would say a really nice use case. However, what happened? They relied on closed source information. They didn't create a lot of safety nets. So what ended up happening is basically um, their chatbot created answers hallucinated based on other information that already exists in OpenAI or Anthropic. I'm not sure what they used as a base model. So luckily, they recognized it early on, but the damage was done. A lot of tickets were given to free for free to people that asked for free tickets, and they discriminated to some degree on which people would get those tickets, right? And all of that existed in the closed source model. They didn't have the full control, and they didn't build the full kind of safety net around it. So you're if you don't have the safety nets and you're not engineering around this model, you're just plugging the data inside of it. It's just gambling with AI. It's is not meant to be like that. Okay, so make sure to always responsibly take care of your use cases around AI. To give you another example of one of our clients, um, they approached us to create a customer support bot for them, and they said, "Okay, cool. So we have two sources of information regarding the customer support. One being the phone, another one being the email." And when I checked their questions, there were so many repetitive questions. So on paper, that sounds as a great use case for AI. Well, that that happened until I checked their data. So when I looked at their data, I saw so many emails answered, I'm quoting, same as I told you over the phone. So if I trained their AI model on that, it would repeat the same thing, which is completely useless. Um, how like AI would be biased in that direction? When we speak about bias, we are constantly thinking about bias in a gender equality or generally like age equality and stuff like that. But it can be biased in this kind of a negative thing where it is repeating your mistakes and it is already there. So always think about how to clean the data responsibly and how to think about things that can be learned by AI, because AI is just a mirror. It is replicating everything that we do. Okay, cool. Um, oh, hi, Justin. Um, yeah, we have somebody from Los Angeles. Hello, hello there. We have another question in the chat. How do you decide if data is unbiased? That's a good question. You don't really decide. And okay, to be honest, um, so the question is, how do we know basically if the data is unbiased or not? Okay, I never found a data set that is completely unbiased, right? So there is always a certain degree of um, built-in expectations or things that we already know that are just amplified by our data. So you will always have some degree of biases in inside of your data. The only thing that you can do is be aware of those biases, and over time you will try to remove these these things inside of your data. So the worst kind of bias is the bias that you're not aware of. If you know what you can expect from your data and from, of course, AI in that case, um, that's where the bias is okay, right? So you're of course trying to go and remove and bias, sorry, as much as possible, but it's not really possible to completely remove it because we are inherently building our our biases inside of the data. So sometimes we are not aware of what we are biased of. So that's why I'm try to keep up with the things that your AI is doing, and that will come up net positive in the long run. Yeah. So I would say the worst kind of bias is the bias that you are not aware of. Yeah. So yeah, yeah. And if you ask me, there is no such thing as completely unbiased data. Yeah. Thanks for the question. Good. Uh, what is the most biased AI in your opinion? I don't know. I would say, um, hmm, oof. Okay. So I did a research when Google, Anthropic, and ChatGPT, of course, before them released their LLMs, and all of them are biased to this day as well, in the gender bias or they're biased regarding the race bias. So there is always kind of biases built inside of it. And let's just like kind of a look at these models from the broader perspective. All of these models are built in the West. All of these companies are also trying to incorporate all the cultures that are not present that much in US. But all of the models that we know of are built inside US or for the US market as a kind of a first test market. Just take for example Sora. Sora 2 is not released anywhere else except US at the time of this live stream. So many of these algorithms are trained on the data generated there for their market, So, having said that, you will have that that kind of a bias present in all of these algorithms, meaning more gender inequality compared to the East, for example, or more race inequality compared to the East. So that is something that these algorithms still to this day have, but this is not intentional. Like none of these companies really want to have this problem, but these algorithms just replicating what is present on the internet. We can like it or dislike it. It is true, right? So back to your question, which algorithm I would say is the most biased today? Depending on, I really can't answer that because I don't really have a whole whole scope picture of these algorithms. I would say that depending on which sector we look at, for example, for coding, I would say that ChatGPT is really biased towards certain methodology or certain way of coding, while Anthropic has more source code in their data set, which I think generated more diverse coding experiences. But when you speak about general questions, like a business related stuff, depending really depends. Like I did see bias present in all three. Which one has the most bias inside of it? I don't know. It's really difficult to measure like one kind of a comparing them on how much bias one has over the other. It's really difficult to have a metric on that. Thanks. Okay, we have one question here. Should we develop our own AI model and solution in house, or use off the shelf AI model, like a tools and cloud services? We are weighing the cost of having like versus the having the competitive edge. Okay, that's a nice question. Mhm. Okay, so it depends on what you're trying to maximize and where is your team or a company currently at the moment. Meaning, what is your goals, what you want to achieve, and stuff like that. In most cases, buy first, like a subscribe and build around certain API, and then if you are seeing benefit, like just try to invest more. There are incredible open source models, APIs and tools out there that will get you like a 80% out there with only 20% of the effort. Like, yeah. So I would say always start with something off the shelf and then only build if it's necessary. If you're building an AI product or you are a niche where the off the shelf tool doesn't get you like over the edge, then build custom, but not from scratch, of course. Like in those cases as well, use foundational models, fine tune, control the data flow, and then own the value layer that provided. And another kind of a thing or perspective that we can take in this case is uh, like if you're a startup or you want to build like a moat out of AI technology, gluing ChatGPT into your product isn't IP, doesn't provide you a moat. And if your AI experience can be copied in a weekend, like or vibe coded, then you don't have a moat. So there is that's where real engineering comes in, not just calling an API, but also actually adapting it to your domain, to your data, and your feedback loop, your users especially. So that's kind of a my direction. Buy to learn, build to differentiate. Start with a fast set of tools, and um, just build to go over the edge if you want to own something. Nice, cool, nice. We are having more and more people joining in. Hello, everyone. Cool. Uh, this is this is another question from from a group. Who should actually lead AI initiative in a company if we don't have like a chief AI officer? Is this for a CTO job or does it belong to the data team? Oof. Okay, I don't know if I have a clear answer on this. I'll try to answer. Mm, so the execution of these kind of AI related generally sits in the technical leadership, like a CTO, head of data, if you have chief AI officer, but your question was created if you don't have the chief AI officer. So somebody that knows all the moving parts or most of the moving parts that one AI system should have. And like today, if we are just trying to map out the landscape of AI solution in the architectural sense, most of these solutions is not related to AI. You will have like a couple of APIs. Yes, you might have the model, but overall, to make sure that all of this is scalable and to actually comply with certain privacy issues or that is scalable with your technology, the rest of technology, that all things is pure engineering, nothing to do with AI. So all of this execution should be led by a technical person. But deciding what to build, why to build it, how to measure it, and when to build it, all of that is nothing to do with the tech related stuff. And that's a business decision. So all of this should be led by a business um, stakeholder, by a business decision maker. So the technical person would answer drive the answer on how this should be built, but people closest to the problem, for example, who should use that, on how somebody will utilize this solution, have to own the what and why. That includes basically whoever ultimately going to use the AI internally or externally, right? Or whoever is responsible for delivering the value to the end user. So in most cases, this is not somebody from the technical team. This is somebody who will be related to business mostly. So if your AI initiative is being run in isolation by a data team with no inputs from business leaders, users, and customers to save you a lot of time, it's going to fail. Okay. So that's why you have 95% of cases where people report that their AI flopped, their AI project didn't work, it didn't meet the mark. So all of these things um, are happening because you're doing something in isolation. You are considering AI to be only purely technical challenge and not a business related challenge, and that's where you fail at the very beginning. So good AI work is a cross-functional by default. If you don't include both business decision makers and engineers from the day one, so it should be involved from the very initialization and like onwards. You're just building a tool that nobody asked for. So solving a problem nobody cared for, and that's why you're building an AI to have AI as a strategy and not like a solving a real problem. So start with a real problem and then apply AI if that is a real kind of approach to solving that one. Yeah. Okay. Cool. See who's joining in. Okay. Well, people are joining in. Let's go through a couple of more questions. So we have a next question. There is so much hype around AI right now. As a business leader, what are the biggest misconceptions I should avoid? People talk about AI like a magic, or it's kind of a magic. that it can solve anything. What can I actually do, and what can it do, and what can't it do for my business? Okay, I love that question. I love that question. Okay, so I would say like this: biggest misconception that we have that AI is something sentient magic or a silver bullet, and we are trying to promote AI as a kind of um like a that like a AI as it is, instead of looking like a bigger picture and saying what actually AI is, and that is only a technological approach for solving a problem. It's not the only approach, it's never been the only approach, and you should look at it as a potential approach, not the only one, and not like immediately mapping out like, oh my god, I'm gonna apply AI to whatever, sorry, to whatever I'm doing, right? So it's not AI is basically advanced. Uh, like if we look at it, AI is just a advanced pattern recognition, and it excels at narrow things, analyzing data faster than what we can do, and automating some routines, decisions, and generating content. Now, I did kind of extrapolate here a couple of things. So it's important to say for AI that because it learns from data, um, we have like a pattern recognition in those data sets that we use to train these algorithms. And we have some mapping, like AI is mapping from one end to the other. We have some inputs, we are mapping to the outputs. Now, you might ask a question, like say, okay, but we have these models like LLMs that can generate text and stuff like that. Yes, but this is kind of a really difficult to understand for us humans because we see these models um, generating generating text for seemingly every piece of information, every piece of kind of a question or every question that we have. Um, it the answer might be useful, right? But we humans are giving the context to those answers, and because these this is a question that is like, for example, create um plan for me for training, or do this business plan for me, or like we are giving a context around what we want to achieve, and because it uses natural human language that we understand, we are immediately jumping on a bandwagon and saying, okay, this can understand me. It gives me like a real nice question formulated in a way that I can understand and I can utilize to do some decision on top of it. The issue here is these algorithms don't really truly understand, right, the the nuance of your business or the actually the meaning of your question. And there are researchers, of course, that will um, disagree with me, which is completely okay. But what my point is here, these models, even though they can generate answers on seemingly any question, they still do a simple thing: generating text. If you put LLM to drive a car, like a Tesla, for example, it won't be able to do that, right? So it still only works for one specific narrow thing, which is generating text. We are giving it possibility to do extra stuff, calling other systems, but the core algorithm, like LLM, is still generating text. Okay, and the meaning of these words, like is it a table, is it a phone, is it something else, is nothing for these algorithms because those algorithms are just seeing numbers. Like this, I don't know, phone can be a token like a 112. This keyboard can be like a keyboard can be 113, and this is still a number inside of the LLM. So it doesn't know what keyboard is, what is the phone, and stuff like that. Now, the next kind of iteration is okay, but how do we have these sentences appearing with a context and in a way that it makes sense for us? Well, because it's so many times that keyboard comes before or after a certain word, it knows the pattern because this is a pattern recognition algorithm. So it can understand that the context context is context around this keyboard, giving the words that are appearing more frequent next to it. And that's how you achieve when we type a certain word that keyboard appears next and not the phone. So it's still pattern recognition. So it is important to distinguish that yes, ChatGPT or LLMs can be amazing, like a pairs on and of generating information for us, but still they don't understand that information. They're just generating patterns that they saw in dataset. Okay, so if your data or instructions are flawed, AI will be confidently wrong, which we call hallucination. If we didn't see a certain pattern, AI is trained to generate some pattern. So if we ask it to generate an answer on some question that doesn't exist, AI will come up with an answer for us. And for the reason for that is it is trained to generate the next word, not because it is generated to be correct. Okay, so people will try to come up with better approaches in the long run, but this is how it goes. Okay. Another myth is that AI will replace all humans soon, where basically it comes down from what AI can actually do. In reality, AI is really powerful but really narrow, and I love AI. That's why we are all here. But it is best used to augment us to achieve certain tasks m- in a more robust or better way. Um, so that's where that saying goes, where AI won't replace you, but humans with AI would. Not my saying, of course. Everybody, maybe all of you heard on the call, but that's kind of the true, because if you use AI to augment your actions to be more um, faster, or yeah, achieve more kind of a more accuracy in regarding your outputs, that's where you're better than somebody who doesn't use AI. Yeah, yeah. So I would say that the question was what are the biggest misconceptions as a business leader that you can hear? Yeah, cool, nice. Hey, we have so many more questions, but let's see. Uh, Somebody who is here with me live. Do you guys have any questions for me? If not, I can go back to the groups and answer those. Okay, I can see the chat next to me, so please don't hesitate to ask. Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna jump on the next question if you guys typing. So I have the next question is from uh from David. It says, my boss keeps asking about the ROI of AI. Uh, what kind of return of success metric should we expect from AI projects, and how do we measure them? Hmm, like complex stuff, right? I don't want to invest in something that doesn't pay off, which makes sense. Okay, cool. Good question. Good question. Okay, so um, okay, everything that we do needs to have some kind of return on investment or ROI, and we already established that AI isn't magic. It should deliver concrete value. So common success metrics from AI projects include things like um, increased efficiency or productivity. We can say that automating a certain task saves this many hours. cost reduction, revenue growth, or just improve like a general customer satisfaction. Some effects are direct, for example, like a labor hours, like saving labor hours, and some are indirect, like for example, happier customers, right? The important part is to tie the AI output to the business outcome. So, for example, if you deploy an AI chatbot in customer service, you can measure whatever, like whether it reduces response time or boosts customer rating. But you need to have like a specific measurable indicator that actually what you're doing makes sense. Many companies are tracking like intangible things like a faster innovation cycle or competitive positioning. Like define specific KPI upfront. That's my kind of a only recommendation here. Reduce, for example, processing time by 30% or increase sales by 5% via better targeting. But like if you have uh, like an approach that is already pretty high level or abstract, and then your KPIs are abstract, you will fail. If an AI pilot isn't hitting these numbers, either tweak it or scrap it, right? Sometimes AI projects fail to meet expectations, so measuring the ROI early will help you in like a course correct because you never know which approach in AI will actually work. So try it out and then go from there. Okay, that's my kind of recommendation on this. Cool, nice. Uh, cool. Okay, we have a question. Uh, okay, so I think this is from the same company. Our company has a ton of tons of data, but all over the place. Some are in all databases, some on spreadsheets. Uh, do we need to clean it up or move it to cloud before doing any AI projects? How important is data quality and infrastructure for AI? Okay, so you don't really have to like invest in cloud or move your data to cloud, but organizing your data is, of course, important, right? So siloed or messy data uh, will like give you poor results. So yeah, the answer is yes. You should invest in data cleanup and organization. Many times, like I see customers where they would organize, like they would have the silo data, or even like the same type of data, same quality of data in completely different parts of a company, or you would have different parts of a company not being aware of what kind of a data you have under your fingertips. So all of that creates a set of barriers that you need to pass to make sure that your AI is actually, or AI projects are actually profitable and that they make sense. So this investment in your data might just mean that you are consolidating data into one central repository. It doesn't have to be on the cloud. It can be like on your server, on locally somewhere stored. But so the answer for the cloud is not necessarily you don't have to put it on cloud many times. Like if you are in insurance, healthcare, like a finance sector, I don't know what else. Like yeah, basically many sectors that are working with um, pretty sensitive data. You will rather have all of that data in house stored than just put it on the cloud. So yeah, that's it. And it should be up to date and as accurate as possible. And of course, it should be relevant for your projects and for things that you're doing. Yeah. Yeah. And you might have a ton of data as you said in the question, but it might not be relevant to what you're currently doing. What I mean by that is, yes, you might have tremendous years of data, but you change something in the system, and or use your user changed, And training an AI algorithm on all of the data might not be as efficient as just selecting piece of data, like a smaller amount of data that is actually relevant. Okay, so yes, you're losing data that you currently have, but you are increasing the quality of the data that is actually relevant to your current state of the company. Yeah. um like, and for example, like, just to give you an example of what is kind of irrelevant to us right now, COVID times. Many systems that we have had in production back then for our clients, for example, recommendation systems, um, we need to retrain them. And like, when COVID started, many user behavior changed overnight, immediately, which we can call data drift. Right? Model was trained on one piece of behavior, which was relevant until everybody went and lived completely different lives at home. Suddenly, you had users logging in at 3 a.m., uh, 4 p.m., like in middle of a day, working day. They would sleep like completely different hours, and all of that, just like a logging and changing the patterns when somebody logs into the website. If that was a relevant thing for the algorithm, suddenly that algorithm was no longer accurate. I'm not even saying like completely drift in what they bought originally. Like before, they would buy certain a certain product, but suddenly they needed completely different stuff, or they didn't need anything at all because they changed the way that they are operating right now. So your data, yes, you might have all the years of data before COVID in this case, but suddenly that's no longer relevant. So in those cases, you need to stop what you're doing, focus on collecting more relevant data that is currently showing the case of your users, and then you train the algorithm again. And back to your kind of a first part of the question, even today, but it was more relevant before whole craze of generative AI. When you're doing machine learning on AI projects, you would spend about 60 to 80% of the whole project time just to work around the data. So it can be collecting the data from different sources, understanding the data, consolidating the data, cleaning the data, and then you would spend the rest of the time on the project to fine tune and select specific algorithm that might work for that case. So having the data cleaned and organized is actually really needed to make sure that your project is successful. Cool. Uh, Next question. Okay. Hi, Luca. I'm manager at our company and some mid-sized company, and everyone is talking about AI. Okay, it's overwhelming. Where do we even start if we want to use AI without falling falling for the hype? Good, good question. Like everybody, uh, yeah, I do. I completely understand you. Okay, so um, let's step back and look at the bigger picture, where the whole thing about AI hype comes in, and where do we get kind of the information that everybody is running on AI. I would say like this: we are overwhelmed not with whole advancements in AI, but the whole thing marketed to us. I would say that a lot of things happening in AI are just really well marketed, and the messaging that we are constantly being fed, that we are being fed, um, is something that creates a picture that every single day we have more and more um, tools, wrappers, better algorithms, better approaches, new companies and stuff like that, right? Some of that is true. Don't get me wrong, but I would say that most of like AI related influencers on YouTube and other stuff are promoting these tools and mm, uh, these updates that are happening in bigger companies. And that's why we get that picture that everything is moving that fast. But my kind of a 2 cent is this: most of these tools that we have daily, weekly, whatever, are just wrappers of one another. Might be better for you, might not, like in the sense of interface. But if you just scrap all the things happening currently, you can just select a couple of tools depending on what you want to achieve, and you just use them. It doesn't matter if Leonardo introduced a new a video generation tool, right? It might be useful for you, but how does it change your decision making if you're going to use it or not? Like video um, tools exist before that, right? And most of these are, as I said, wrappers. So you would have just interface for Sora 2 or for VO3, right? So you would have a lot of models already on the market, you would have a lot of wrappers, and constantly being served new and new updates does feel overwhelming. And I'm completely on board with you on that. But just try to remove all the fog created by all of these updates and say, okay, how does it really impact my decision if these new algorithms r- come came to be in these tools or not? If you haven't you if you didn't use Sora 2 before, suddenly you are just gonna use it because it is served in the other algorithm. I don't think so, right? And yeah, so in most cases, uh, at least in the year or so, many new capabilities of AI didn't unlock ground breaking like possibilities that we didn't have before. We have so many amazing updates, and that's completely okay. But then, like after we saw a lot of updates happening in the past, like maybe 3 4 years, today we are just seeing more and more tools, and then of course improvements of those algorithms. So the incremental shift that is happening on the market is not as um, as groundbreaking as we had before. Yeah. So, and like if you're a mid-sized company or any, like I heard that people from a company that is less than 10 people are using AI. I would say in any of the cases, if you're not using AI just now and you're thinking about using AI in your operation, start small. um, See how to just use capabilities of products that you've been using so far. Most of businesses are using office tools. You try to use Copilot. Doesn't mean it doesn't matter if it's good or bad. We are not judging the Copilot right now. Try to use it. Try to use Gemini inside of Google Sheets if you're on Google Stack. Try to increase um, times of your interactions with AI as much as possible. Don't implement anything. So try to start small, and you will see incremental shift of you how you gain more and more benefit from these tools. Yeah, and then only then try building something yourself if you see benefit. But in most cases, you will be fine with only this. Cool. Hey, uh, the next question. We tried using ChatGPT to answer some of our customer support questions as an experiment. Okay, sometimes it worked great, but other times it just made stuff up. That sounded convincing. Okay, yeah. How can we trust AI outputs if it hallucinates wrong answers? Cool. Um, Actually, this happened to me as well. Not recently, but I think a year ago, something like that. I created um, like an algorithm for myself for Instagram, and just wanted to like showcase a demo for a potential customer, and I forgot about this algorithm, it was just like um, stuck on my Instagram account, and that's it, right? And after some time, I saw that people are just chatting with my account, and I said, okay, but I'm not answering this. Nobody is, and I forgot that AI was answering all the time, and I saw that it made a lot of stuff up, like about the pricing of my services, what I'm doing, like everything that it could made up, it did. So yeah, but this is the biggest one of the biggest challenges that we are still facing, but a lot of companies are working on side of it. There is amazing research like on how to decrease hallucination, and I think over time we'll see more and more companies introducing this inside of their algorithms, of course, with all the search mechanisms, capabilities for these tools like LLMs. You see less and less hallucination. It's not 100% certain, but it still can make things up, but less than it did like 2 years ago. Like these models will sometimes output just false information, even if you provide it with the actual source. And like they are not intentionally lying, they are just designed to predict plausible sentences and not verify facts. So you need another set of mechanisms built around these LLMs to check whether or not that is like correct or not. Like in business, a confidently wrong answer can be really dangerous, of course. And like just recently, we saw many cases where a lawyer got sanctioned because ChatGPT completely fabricated legal citations, and they didn't even realize that. And companies, chatbot invented like a refund policy that didn't exist, which is similar to my case that I started the answer of this. Or like a McKinsey also like got sanctioned to return all the money to the client because they used ChatGPT to create the whole answer, which was completely wrong. So in the past 2 years, like just in the past 2 years, I consulted a couple of Fortune 500 company CEOs, or not CEOs but general executives, and like many of them used ChatGPT to answer, like to create an answer for those reports that they need to provide those reports every 3 months or so. And most of the facts that they used to kind of justify their actions inside of their businesses were completely made up. And if they submitted those reports as is, that would be a really really big issue for their company, right? So luckily, mm, like one of the first thing that I always do with them is always double check everything that you do with AI, and that's how they recognize all of these miscaps. Okay, so of course the next question is how to deal with all of this made up information. Well, I would say the first kind of a is first thing is never blindly trust AI out. Use AI as a draft or suggestion, but have a human like in the loop to review, especially when you have a critical information. So then consider fine tuning the model or using retrieval augmented generation like a RAG, where you would basically have your reference document as a source of truth, and then you can build on top of it. Okay. The reality is, like with all the things that we currently have, you will always have some amount of information that might be wrong. Okay. But always make sure that you have safety nets around it to um yeah, to double check, either to double check, to research, to search the internet for resources, to have your own information as a kind of a grounded for your answers. But even with all of that, try to periodically check your answers. And for example, for everything that we build, we always have a safe second safety net to make sure that if it fails, we can go back to a more deterministic output. from AI, at least for now. We'll see in the future if they manage to remove um, most of these mishaps in algorithms, but my gut feeling is not in if we are just following the current training of AI. Cool. Uh, okay, we have a couple more minutes. Okay, a lot of my team members are nervous that AI will replace them, and honestly, I'm concerned too. Will AI make some roles obsolete in our industry? How do you see your job roles evolving, and how can we prepare for workforce? Okay, I don't have the I don't have the information about your industry, so I'm gonna try to answer as relevant to you as possible, right? But I do understand kind of your concern, and I would say that um, the biggest part is how management will take on the actions, and inevitably AI will change a lot of industries and many jobs. Um, but I would say that's like taking completely the jobs so far. We'll see when and which jobs. I would say customer support, obviously, will be the one that will have the biggest hit. Uh, Seeing the complete disruption, meaning like 100% of the jobs will be just removed, I wouldn't bet on it just now, but I would say it does make sense that um, that some amount of jobs will be decreased. Okay. Also, we see the pattern that even World Economic Forum like projected that it will disrupt a lot of jobs, about 85 million, if I remember correctly. We can check that, but it will also create many millions of new ones, right? We don't know which ones. That's the biggest thing, and I would say the scariest part of the whole thing about AI is it is moving really fast. We are not able to adapt to the speed of these changes, and that's what creates the whole fear on the market. And of course, I would say that because we don't have so many unknowns, that's where the next kind of a step of that happens as well. I would say it's a net positive if that prediction of World Economic Forum is correct, where it will create a lot of jobs but also disrupt many. But the like transition will be painful, uh, and that's the truth. What happens is like a task with jobs are shifting. That's the reality, and AI will automate some routines, repetitive work, and like freeing humans to do more complex, creative, or interpersonal work. So roles will kind of evolve, meaning what we do day to day will change. Answering specific critical tasks or completing certain information that we didn't do before or didn't have the time before. Just to give you an example, one huge bank from my country employed just one HR person for years before to check all the comments from different users and just judge them whether or not they were basically sentiment prediction, whether they were a positive, negative, or neutral. And that person will sit 8 hours and just select which of these comments were positive, negative, or neutral. They because they are a big bank, they received like about 8,000 of these comments daily through different sources. And because they had only one person, which was HR and is to this day, um, they that person only managed to do about 2,000 to 2,500 per day if the day was really productive. Okay, so you would have every single day accumulating more and more um, questions or comments. Especially, just imagine that this is still true during the weekend. So this person will go on Monday and receive about 16,000 uh, of those questions unanswered. If we just scrap everything that happened before, but we know that it's accumulating. And this person was part of HR team, which had a lot more on plate than just judging these questions. So or comments. So having AI to automate that part would allow this person to focus on making sure that all employees are doing the best they can, making sure that they have all resources they need. A lot of stuff that HR should do, but they are overwhelmed with basic stuff that nobody wants to do or they must do because it's part of their job. But this suddenly unlocks them to do many more things that they would love to do before, but they couldn't. And that's where I would say AI shines the most. Um, Now, why the whole transition will be painful for everybody is everybody to some degree would need to reskill or upskill. And because the change is inevitable and nobody, well, not nobody, but most people don't really like change. And that's where the whole thing um, really creates a difficult scenario for a lot of people. Many people don't have energy, they don't have resources, they need to work, they have kids, families, and stuff like that. So upskilling, if it's not a part of their full time job, would create a lot of burden for the family, right? So I would say that's the um, biggest transitional factor. I would say that um, yeah, that burns a lot of ground. Yeah. And the companies need to invest like in upskilling. And just if we take a look at one study, it found out that about 60% or 65% of employers expect a really nice return or reskilling workers in 2025, 2025, 2026. And that is kind of a really nice possibility for educators. But that is also, as I said, the really big burden for people who are part of that reskilling process. Yeah. Um, and another part where I would say why people are afraid and why and how to achieve this in the best possible way is the change management is not good enough. Okay, in these situations, you need to educate people. And as when I started answering this question, uh, I would say that in many cases, you have that unknown that provides a kind of a really nice ground for fear. So educating people where AI can help and where AI cannot is the crucial part. Okay, so many people are afraid of AI or afraid that AI will take their job or change their job, and many things that I can put here in the sentence. Um, the biggest thing is because of marketing, because of the way that we are fed information about AI, people create a picture that this is a silver bullet, this can change everything, this is like this is already thinks for itself. And of course, just think about this: marketing people and just general like a media needs to do this because of the investments, because of the way that like because of the way that we are just perceiving headlines. So having all of this in place will create a nice ground for promotional stuff. Um, to make sure that um, you are not fearing AI, but you're utilizing it, educate yourself. Just at the beginning, just the basic stuff what AI can do and what AI can't, because there is a lot of things that AI cannot do, but we are fed information that it actually can. Yeah, cool. We have so many more questions, but unfortunately, we are out of time because we have, yeah, maybe one more question if there is in a chat. Otherwise, we can just continue next week, or you can just contact me on LinkedIn. You can um, schedule a call with my team, and we can discuss it on one on one. But yeah, um, I think we had a lot of questions today. That's nice. Thank you guys. Okay, I have a couple more questions, but I'm gonna leave them for the next week. Thank you. Thanks. Nice. Okay, I think that's it for today. Thank you so much for being a part of the first live stream in this format. It's gonna just get better and better over time. I hope you enjoyed the first one, and yeah, talk to you next week. Thanks.